All right, Derbyites, my blackmail attempts finally paid off. I'm Amanda Spears. I am joined with Zach Laws and Riley Chow, and we are going to discuss the acting races for the limited series. Now, these have been very hotly contested the last couple of years. This year, it seems like we know what's going to happen, but there's a lot of possible upsets. So let's start with limited series actor, where Darren Criss looks like it's his to lose. Does he win, or is he going to be upset, Riley?
Well, if there's one person who will or can upset him, it's Benedict Cumberbatch, I would say. He's giving a performance that is very much Emmy bait. I mean, that's pretty much all the show is, at least I found it to be. The first episode is just him throwing things across the room. He's high on drugs. He's going through withdrawal. It's everything that would win in the Emmy tape system. But I do think Darren Criss is ahead just because he got the TCA nomination. Not that that always correlates, but there's more passion there than I thought. What I find interesting about this category is that it's a strong category in terms of I can't tell exactly who is going to be snubbed. I've got Al Pacino, I have Darren Criss, Benedict Cumberbatch, Antonio Banderas. Even though Genius this year was less well received and less watched, I feel like it would be quite surprising if they went from 10 nominations, including several major ones last year, to just getting shut out above the line. So
and I think, remember, location counts on that ballot, and the first name on half of them will be Antonio Banderas.
Yeah, and then the last two slots I've got Kyle MacLachlan and Jeff Daniels, but I could see Jesse Plemons coming in.
Yeah, he's kind of like the one I keep looking at and thinking, we talked about this earlier with Black Mirror, how it's probably going to have an uptick in nominations just because more people are watching it this year than they did last year. USS Callister is far and away the front runner to win for TV movie right now. So it would stand to reason that they would pick up an acting nomination or two. And Jesse Plemons, he's a previous Emmy nominee for Fargo. He got in over some people who are more Emmy friendly that year, even in his own show. So it wouldn't surprise me if he got in, but it is, who do you knock out? Because, these are Emmy favorites. People like Jeff Daniels, who's won before, Benedict Cumberbatch, who's won before, Al Pacino, who's won before. It's going to break my heart if Kyle MacLachlan doesn't win, just like it'll break my heart if David Lynch doesn't win. But
you better get prepared.
My heart's been broken so many times it's about as small and hard as a Skittle, but every so often it can warm just a bit. I think who do you knock out to put in a Jesse Plemons? Or maybe this category could expand to 7. We've seen that they'll do that, if they have enough votes. I do kind of, I guess that Darren Criss is ahead in this, but I really do wonder if the empathy factor is going to be something that hurts him. We see this over and over again, at least at the Oscars. I think we see it at the Emmys too. They like to vote for sympathetic heroes, and Andrew Cunanan is many things, but 2 things he is not is sympathetic and heroic. So I kind of wonder if, as brilliant as Darren Criss is in this show, and as far and away the front runner as Versace is to win in limited series, if that could be an impediment on him. And we see, the Benedict Cumberbatch, for instance, the person overcoming struggles with drugs and alcohol and abuse, if that could be what wins, or if my beloved Kyle MacLachlan are.
I think what helps Darren Criss is the reverse factor. Like, you hate him, and then you kind of start feeling a little bad for his abusive, crazy childhood. That kind of manipulates him a little bit, but I do think he gives this big performance. Al Pacino won for playing Jack. I don't remember the last.
Kevorkian.
Yeah, Kevorkian.
Right,
I don't think that's exactly the most sympathetic person.
Well, maybe to some people.
He does help people out, but there are those people who won't like him. Let's talk about Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan played the antagonist in the biggest movie of the year. He's a TV veteran. And we have seen people win when they shouldn't win, a la Benedict Cumberbatch, who I don't want to win because he's not going to come. He's not going to show up to the ceremony. So does Michael B. Jordan have a chance of getting in? He's in 5th place right now.
I think it's going to be a miracle if he gets nominated for a movie that most people hated.
Well, most people hated Paterno, so
I know, and I should say, I mean, maybe Al Pacino might not get in this year. Who knows? Crazy things can happen. But yeah, I think if Michael B. Jordan gets nominated for a movie that is kind of universally reviled by people, then I think the nomination would probably be his reward.
Yeah, and this is a category that kind of favors the veteran. I mean, not necessarily when it comes to the win, but at the nomination stage, we even see, a show like Fargo that might get 18 nominations, and then it doesn't get Patrick Wilson in because he's not quite as famous as, your Al Pacinos. That's where I think Darren Criss has a leg up when it comes to deciding the winner. Like, where is the passion? I don't think people are that excited to see Jeff Daniels nominated again, good as he is. I think what I really want to see and what will shape my prediction is how well does Patrick Melrose do? Because even though it seems anecdotally like a very polarizing show, or a show that maybe is not well received by people who watch it, it did get the TCA nomination. It did get overall favorable reviews. This is a show that could be nominated for series, writing, directing. It's got a couple of supporting performances in it. So I want to see how much they like Patrick Melrose.
I should say, I mean, I mentioned, voting for a heroic character, and, Jeff Daniels in The Looming Tower plays John O'Neill, who was a real life hero. And I mean, if you know anything about history, or if you have watched The Looming Tower, spoiler alert, it's a tragic hero. So, I mean, that might be something that works in his favor. And in terms of, it would depend on how much they actually go for The Looming Tower. I guess the winner of this category is going to depend. I'm going to shape my prediction around whatever I end up predicting to win limited series. Because maybe they could just go hand in hand. We don't see it that often, but I don't know how else to call it at this point.
We've seen it a couple of times. Not last year, but yeah. Courtney B. Vance. Yeah.
It's not something that's a regularity, I should say.
Yeah. We've got to talk about 2 more names before we move on, mostly because Marcus doesn't send me a curse-laced email. Evan Peters, the long cast member from American Horror Story, who has never been nominated, never ever. Does he maybe have a chance this year? And then let's also talk about the guy who's looking for his E and EGOT, John Legend, in a soft field.
Well, I mean, possibly yes. I would think. John Legend. Either of those guys would have a chance. American Horror Story has kind of been on the downturn in terms of nominations lately, but it does still manage to get actors in, like Sarah Paulson and Kathy Bates. Although it didn't do as well last year.
Didn't get anything last year.
Yeah,
it got shut out.
I think 2 years ago. I mean, certainly with it being more socially relevant, I think maybe it might be top of mind, but I don't know.
He plays 15 people, and some of them are real life people, and
he's very good at it.
He got his first Critics' Choice nomination.
Mm-hmm. Jesus Christ Superstar would be an interesting nomination, because I mean, we haven't seen these like live productions of musicals that we've seen. I mean, has there been an acting nomination for any of them?
The only one live was The Raisin in a Sun, and that's a play. And
yeah, so I mean, that would be kind of just for him to get nominated, I think would be a big deal. But because even like with Grease Live, which was a phenomenon, and I mean that that got no acting nominations whatsoever.
And I think Vanessa Hudgens was the one everyone was kind of pushing for like the On With the Show. Her father died that morning.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about these televised live musicals. Until it happens, I'm not going to predict it, and then of course I'll be too late at that point. I would say neither of those people that you mentioned have much of a chance. As great as Evan Peters is, and since I didn't mention it in the last video, I'll say Taylor Kitsch was also another great cult leader. And Waco, in general, was a show that I loved. I think maybe has the drama episode of the year. But yeah, those first few episodes did not please the critics.
Which episode was it that was the episode of the year?
The finale, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think look out for Michael Shannon. I think Michael Shannon and Jeff Daniels could be double nominees because it's such a weak field. And Michael Shannon kind of in Waco gives us something we haven't seen from him, where he's the good guy. He's the one trying to stop the disaster from happening.
Yeah, who'd have thought in a movie about like a cult leader who ends up killing a bunch of his followers, Michael Shannon would be playing the hero.
But it's he breaks down and cries in the finale. Yeah. He really shows us a different side of him. And I think for Taylor Kitsch, who kind of put all of his money in being in True Detective, this was a really great step forward for him. Melissa Benoist is not going to get nominated either, but it's a very mature role to play his first wife.
Mm-hmm. I'd also love to see Jimmy Tatro, Critics' Choice nominee, get in for American Vandal.
I would love that. He's like 20. Oh my God. So does Laura Dern just get promoted to the lead trophy, or is Jessica Biel really got a shot at this?
As soon as The Tale came on, I automatically switched that prediction to Laura Dern, and here's why. If you looked up the word Golden Globe winner in the dictionary, you'd have had a photo of Jessica Biel right in the center next to it. I mean, if she couldn't win the Golden Globe for that, I feel like it's going to be a really hard journey for her to win the Emmy. She could, I wouldn't count it out. But I think that with Laura Dern, the combination of her just having won last year and having this kind of renaissance and very possibly being a double nominee this year, I think that's kind of a done deal at this point.
I'm skittish on Jessica Biel getting in, and I agree with you. I know that Jessica Biel and her husband were campaigning the HFPA really hard to get that Globe, and he who shall not be named convinced me not to go with Nicole Kidman, and I'm still pissed.
Yeah, I have Jessica Biel getting in. I think that she was the front runner before HBO acquired The Tale at Sundance, by which point it already had, its amazing reviews, and that mentioned Laura Dern as a possible Oscar contender. But, I love talking about the guilds, and The Sinner was not nominated by a single guild, not for, its sound editing or nothing. Like, this might be a show that, even though it has good ratings, maybe it's just another NCIS or The Walking Dead or Empire that's just not on the radar because it's not a prestige project. Laura Dern, she's on HBO. She's Laura Dern. She's giving a great performance. She's playing a Me Too survivor, as is Benedict Cumberbatch. So we could have a pair of those winning the lead categories this year. And
it's not going to show up.
Yeah, and then once you get just kind of as you move down the category, this is not the strongest lineup that we've seen, or at least it's not filled with movie stars as the category often is. I've got Michelle Dockery is my third for getting a nomination. It's funny how the Godless campaign, I don't know if you saw those ads that ran on Gold Derby where it says, please consider Godless and its performances. And then it had a picture of Jeff Daniels, Merritt Weaver, and Michelle Dockery, but they forgot the actual lead of the show, Jack O'Connell, just because they...
I think Michelle Dockery...
We didn't even talk about in this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he doesn't play the flashiest character, and this year's fall award shows, televised ones, we only saw a couple people who are eligible for Emmys this year nominated, and that's Jeff Daniels, Jessica Biel, and Kyle MacLachlan, basically. I know that Laura Dern was nominated, but she was nominated for Big Little Lies, so that's a different thing. So don't put that in the comments.
I kind of Riley. Who else have you got? Who are your last three?
Yes, then I've got Elizabeth Moss just as the last person standing for Top of the Lake, which was not as well received. But hey, she's winning drama actress, so I think she can at least get a nomination here. Then I've got Kristen Milioti for Black Mirror. Black Mirror is not a show that got any acting nominations last year, but it did get a SAG nomination, and it was extra crowded because of Big Little Lies and Feud. So I wouldn't say that it's a show that is incapable of getting acting nominations. And finally, I've got Haley Atwell. Even though Gold Derby continually overestimates stars in this category specifically, be it Rebecca Ferguson for The White Queen or Frances O'Connor for The Missing.
Jacqueline Bisset after her Globe win.
Yeah, I mean, Howard's End got great reviews, and there's some space here, so why not?
I don't have Haley Atwell in because I'm a cynic, and she is not an Oscar nominee, as wonderful as she is. I have Emmy favorite Edie Falco. I know that Law and Order, the Menendez murders was not the greatest series, but she's an Emmy favorite. I really think that she probably could just take that 6th spot away from Haley Atwell or Jessica Biel, whoever is in 6th place.
What about, the name that neither of you said yet, it took Sarah Paulson forever to win that first Emmy. And I mean, she has not been nominated since, right? So.
Oh my God, it's been 2 years. It's been 1 year.
But I'm saying, let's
have a crisis meeting.
Oh, I'm just wondering. Because do you think she's not going to get in for American Horror Story? I mean, she got in for every season that she was eligible on, except for last year for that show.
Which is the most important one when making this year's predictions.
Right. I know.
I think, that character, I think that character she's playing in American Crime next year or the year after sounds interesting. But I with her and Edie Falco so close, I would go with Edie Falco. Because she'll make a little Emmy history as being nominated in all these categories. So she's got to start working on the supporting categories next. Make her way through those.
Zach, do you have Sarah Paulson? Who are your 6?
I don't have Sarah Paulson. Okay. I've got Laura Dern. I've got Jessica Biel. I've got Michelle Dockery. I've got Elizabeth Moss. I've got Kristen Milioti, just like you, and I've got Haley Atwell as well. I would put Edie Falco in there because she is a multiple Emmy winner and nominee. But I do wonder how well the Menendez brothers limited series is going to be received.
It's such a soft competition this year. I think she could just kind of
the field is kind of it's like that year that Ashley Judd got in for The Missing for Missing. It's kind of soft where we could see somebody like Edie Falco get in just for name value.
Well, what about a 2-time Emmy winner like Regina King for 7 Seconds or Anna Devere Smith, with a one-woman show where she plays 18 people. I'm just looking through the list here.
What about Carey Mulligan for Collateral? I know Netflix is pushing that. We didn't talk about it for limited series, but
yeah, I wouldn't want to underestimate HBO. One more that I'll mention is Catherine Zeta-Jones for Cocaine Godmother. When I was in LA, I only saw 2 billboards for Cocaine Godmother, but one was the only one on Hollywood Boulevard, and the other one was right outside the Gold Derby / IndieWire / Variety office.
You missed one of them.
Stockholm Syndrome?
You missed one of them, Riley, because one of them is right down the street from me.
There you go. They know where to put them. Yeah.
It's like I saw it as I was walking to grab a sandwich. So
I love true crime, so I actually watched it. It's not a horrible Lifetime movie. It's not like the Harry and Meghan one. I did not watch that, but I think that. Already? Oh yeah, they got to do the courtship movie.
Oh dear God! Wow, I totally forgot. I call myself an Emmy expert, and I didn't even know that was on the air.
They're never. This cast of Suits is never going to be nominated for an Emmy, but they got to go to a royal wedding, so they're even. But is there anyone else in this category? What about Sarah Gadon? She's currently in 10th for Alias Grace. Any chance?
Sure. Yeah, I think No. I was gonna say we're talking about Edie Falco for the Menendez brothers. I don't know. She's
Yeah. Okay. So that's
I'll
fun.
backtrack a bit.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sarah Gadden, if you're watching this. I would love for you to get nominated.
I thought she was great in that. She carries the whole thing. That final episode where she's playing two characters and drops the Irish accent.
Mhm.
That was really skilled.
I'll just say about Michelle Dockery. Like we all have her. I think at this point she's kind of a lock. But reading the reviews for Godless, people love Merritt Wever. They love Jeff Daniels. They like Scoop McNairy. Jack O'Connell got his Critics' Choice nomination. The one person who I pretty much never saw cited as a standout was Michelle Dockery, but she's just got an easier category.
Well, that, and I think she does the opposite of what she's known for. She's not playing she's not in Howard's End, where you could see how someone goes from Lady Mary to Haley Atwell's character.
Mm-hmm.
So I think completely doing something different kind of helps her out a little bit, as well as being in a so-so kind of category. So let's move on to supporting actress. Penelope Cruz for playing Donatella is currently predicted to win, but poor Angela Lansbury, who has never won an Emmy after 3,000 nominations, is back. Is this finally going to be her year, Zach?
It could be. I mean, I'm kind of perplexed that Penelope Cruz is our front runner for this. I kind of am not quite seeing that.
I think she's more of a placeholder for right now.
Yeah, I think so. Angela Lansbury, we were just talking about this at lunch today at the Gold Derby gang. I mean, her nominations total was in the double digits. And to be like 94 years old and still in contention for Emmys, that's really something to be excited about. So I think she could totally win this. I am, I've got in this category, I've got Angela Lansbury, I've got two Gianni Versace women, Penelope Cruz and Judith Light. I've got Merritt Wever and Godless, who surprised us before. Maybe she could surprise us again. And I'm going out on a limb. I'm predicting two Twin Peaks ladies. I'm predicting Laura Dern, who I think is definitely going to get in, but I'm just going to say screw it, and I'm going for Naomi Watts, who really deserves to be nominated in this category for playing Janie E. Jones, and for being the funniest thing in Twin Peaks, and for playing opposite Kyle MacLachlan as Dougie Jones with a straight face. I think she deserves to win an Emmy for that reason. So that's who I'm pulling for.
Yeah, with Angela Lansbury, I can't tell if she wins or if she doesn't get nominated because nobody saw Little Women, nobody knows what that is. I mean, I do appreciate how PBS, they are aware that she is overdue for an Emmy, and they have been putting out the ads just about her, not trying to get everyone from Little Women a nomination, but just get her a nomination and work with that. But yeah, she could miss. I've got both of the Versace supporting actresses, Penelope Cruz and Judith Light. I have Laura Dern. I don't have Naomi Watts, but I'm very intrigued by her as a contender. I've got Merritt Wever, although I'm a little concerned that she will be kind of the Mary Elizabeth Winstead of the year, in which she is this scene-stealing performance in limited series nominee. But she's not Laura Dern, she's not Angela Lansbury, she's not one of these A-listers, which is sometimes, or I don't know, veterans that they sometimes go for in these categories. I mean, the one who we keep see popping up in this category, whether it's for 15 seconds or if it's for a Lifetime movie, is Ellen Burstyn. And she's actually eligible in this category again for The Tale, which, might win movie. And she's crying in it. She's in the whole movie. And at one point, she even whips out the accordion and just starts playing that for some reason. But it's another box in the Emmy checklist.
One name we didn't mention and we haven't spoken about yet is last year's Best Actress winner, Nicole Kidman. I don't know if she can get in. I think she's in on name, but I could still see her kind of being left out and Ellen Burstyn taking the spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I think she's a little too high in the predictions, personally.
yeah, well, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that she won last year for Big Little Lies, and the fact that she's having this kind of big career renaissance with all the great movies that she's doing and television as well. But Top of the Lake was not as acclaimed this season as it was its first season. So I don't know if she can make it in just on name recognition alone. Ellen Burstyn, on the other hand, it was like as soon as I was looking at the list,
I saw that, I'm like, she's in.
Yeah, I was just like, how do I not have this first? I think I might take out Merritt Weaver and put Ellen Burstyn in.
Oh, it could happen. Yeah,
yeah. Miley said it can happen, and I'm going to stick with Naomi Watts.
I think Merritt Weaver needs to be mentally prepared that she could win this. I really do think so, because if they watch this series, it proves why she's a star. Also, I just want to mention, who thinks Judith Light might win this? Because she is so good in this that when she pops up at the series finale, when you're not expecting it, you kind of realize how much you missed her character.
I think I could see that happen, especially since her chances of winning for Transparent have been all but dashed.
Yeah, that support could help her win.
Yeah.
Who have actually got? Oh, sorry. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to ask you, Riley. Do you think that if Angela Lansbury is Little Women's only nomination, she can still win, or is she just the poor thing going to get nomination? I don't remember the number. It's been so many.
19 maybe. But yeah, she can win even if they don't watch Little Women. And do you know why?
The smart campaign.
No, Margot Martindale.
Yep.
Like, they didn't watch The Americans when they awarded her, but they like her, and people are aware that
blinked and missed Margot Martindale. So
yeah, it's hard to tell in this category who wins, because I can't tell, is Merritt Weaver getting in? Is Angela Lansbury getting in? I feel like Judith Light and Penelope Cruz will actually split some votes, even though there does seem to be a consensus that Judith Light was stronger. And who I've actually got in 6th place for a nomination is Letitia Wright for Black Mirror, just because, I think Black Mirror is big this year. She's in Black Panther. Sure.
Yeah, I think that could happen, just off of popularity alone. But that is going to be dependent on, I guess, whether or not they watch multiple episodes of Black Mirror, or if they're just focusing all their attention on USS McAllister.
If you're not in USS McAllister, you should not be submitted for. I'm not going to keep repeating that, but what about poor Anna Paquin? Never got nominated for True Blood, even in a 2nd season when the show was nominated. Can she sneak in and maybe finally win? She's a past nominee in this category.
No.
All right, let's move on. I'm just looking through the list of possibles.
It took me a minute to remember what she was in. I'm sorry.
Alias Grace.
Yeah.
Can Laura Dern finally be the person who wins 2 Emmys for acting under the popularity system? We see it kind of every year where it seems like somebody's close. John Hamm, he finally wins for Mad Men, but he can't win for guest starring in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. And Dowd, she wins for The Handmaid's Tale. She can't win for The Leftovers. Sarah Paulson, she finally gets her Emmy for American Crime Story, but for some reason, she can't win for American Horror Story. I feel like Laura Dern might be, like, she might have the passion in this category, but, like, is she kind of ineligible for the win because she's definitely winning lead actress?
Well,
I think one might help her win the other, like we saw with Jim Parsons when he was a double nominee. I think being in the Normal Heart probably tipped that 4th Emmy in his favor, but I think it's so hard to win. I mean, you're basically sweeping a field. I don't think it can happen, personally.
I mean, I think it could happen one day, but I think what it would be is a scenario where, like, this is a perfect category where she is the front runner in the in the lead category, so people assume she's going to win. But that doesn't mean she's not going to get votes for Twin Peaks as well. I think that the supporting category is one where you don't have a consensus front runner, and so maybe if she gets just enough votes, she could pull that off. So I think that would be the scenario by which somebody would win both of the awards in one night, is if they just kind of eke by with one of their wins, and they are widely predicted to win the other.
And we know from the Regina King wins, they're watching.
Mhm.
Like, there's no way Regina King would have won either of those if they weren't watching some of these episodes, especially that first season.
Mhm.
I think it was just her Margaret Martindale moment.
No. I think you have to, if you hadn't seen that, it's the same thing where like we've seen people recently give breakthrough performances in the limited series races and win, where that used to not seem to be the case.
We got to leave poor Margot Martindale alone.
I know, like
she's a really,
come on, Riley.
Really lovely lady. You know, she loves us.
Well, I'm going to pick on someone else. I think that there's a chance that Michael Shannon's time might have just come and he might just Ben Mendelsohn, his way into winning supporting actor, where the category's kind of soft. There's really not a strong front runner. Maybe a little vote splitting helps him out and he's in the best picture winner. Maybe it's Michael Shannon's turn to finally win some hardware.
Yeah, I mean, you know, considering that it's a movie that is widely detested.
But he still, he said that he was good in it. They've never picked on him.
I would watch Michael Shannon read the phone book.
I'm with you.
It would be the
tickets right next to you for that one.
That'd be the most fascinating reading of the phone book I'd ever seen. But
you and I need therapy. That would be right next to you to watch that.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, we've Edgar Ramirez right now is the front runner, which I think is kind of a placeholder. I think, you know, Michael Shannon could be the winner. I could see them just as easily going with Jeff Daniels and Godless, and have that be the win for that show. One person, we've got like there's all these people from the Looming Tower who are kind of cannibalizing the predictions right now. Michael Stuhlbarg, Peter Sarsgaard, Bill Camp are like the three, and then there is Tahar Rahim. But then you've got all these kind of like, so you've got also multiple contenders from Versace, like Ricky Martin and Cody Fern, and John Briones is the other one.
And Finn Wittrock.
And Finn Wittrock, yes. So, and then you've got all these kind of like scattered people like Bill Pullman in the center, Jimmy Simpson and USS Callister, who got a BAFTA nomination, Michael Kelly in The Long Road Home, who's a
Brandon Victor Dixon, who told Mike Pence to F off.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, you know, you do that and then you follow it up with playing Judas is really the lead role of, I mean, let's face it. If anyone out of the is going to, if there was ever a year where a supporting player from one of those musicals could get in, it's him. He has the buzz. Like I said, he told Mike Pence to go screw himself. So there is a chance that he could sneak in.
Mm-hmm.
But Edgar Ramirez, remember, he lost to Barry Pepper.
Oh, yeah.
So he might just have the Emmy IOU to win.
I should also mention there's some Twin Peaks people in here too, like Robert Forster and Miguel Ferreira, who's a posthumous possibility. Even David Lynch is contending in this category for playing Gordon Cole. I don't know.
I like the Twin Peaks campaign, how pretty much every poster, billboard, banner, advertisement, who they're bringing out to the events, it's just David Lynch, Kyle MacLachlan, Laura Dern. Mm-hmm. It's very focused. And then it's the same thing I mentioned previously with The Sinner, where it's just The Sinner in limited series, Jessica Biel, and Bill Pullman. So I've got Bill Pullman in my predictions because I think The Sinner was seen. I think that he is actually a co-lead. That's where Critics' Choice nominated him. He's the one who's actually continuing with the show next season. And I feel like he's been around, and sometimes things pay off in that regard. I don't see Michael Shannon winning just because that movie is so reviled. Having said that, it's hard to see really anybody in this category winning because it's one without a strong front runner.
Let me ask you this: why is Cody Fern not in the top 6? Like, I think he was this season, and I've heard the showrunners call him this cycle's Sterling K. Brown. So why is he not ahead of Ricky Martin?
Well, I think it's just name recognition. I mean, Ricky Martin has a name, and Cody Fern is somebody who, you know, a lot of people don't know. But I mean, to your point about Sterling K. Brown, the fact that he got nominated and won for OJ proves that they were watching that show, because he beat out in his own show John Travolta and David Schwimmer, two people who were much more famous than he was
And
at
Hugh
that
Laurie.
point. And Hugh Laurie, yeah. So I think if they're watching Versace, then Cody Fern could get nominated. I could even see him getting in, certainly over Ricky Martin, but I mean, maybe over some of the Looming Tower guys, or even, I don't know, Michael Shannon, because, you know, again, that movie was not critically acclaimed by any stretch of the imagination.
It's pretty much HBO's worst movie ever.
It's not
I
the
know,
worst
like,
movie. I think that
you
Phil
have to go
Spector
back a
was,
very
like,
long
their-
time to
Phil
find a movie that
Spector-
had like worse reviews that was nominated in major categories.
Personally, I would watch that again than watch Phil Spector. That was not my favorite. We get two great actors together, and Helen Mirren has a cold.
The thing with Fahrenheit 451 is, I mean, it had the potential to, you know, I mean, it's based on this great book, and it's got these two incredible actors and a talented director. And, you know, I mean, it comes at a time when we need this kind of story the most. And I don't know how they missed the mark so badly.
And the trailer made it look like it was going to be the next big movie. Like that really got my hopes up that we were going to see this kind of. That's why I said Ben Mendelsohn. I get credit for using someone other than Margot Martindale to prove my point.
It's a good point, though, because, I mean, the second season.
He really didn't deserve to win.
Yeah, not to go back in time.
Category.
Yeah, not to like go back in history, but, you know, that's what we got to do.
But it was the first year of the popular vote, and we saw him beat out people who were in, you know, series nominees, and we saw some vote splitting, and, you know, you get two from Versace, a few from the Looming Tower, and then if he's the only one there. But we could have a Shape of Water battle.
That's true. Yeah,
I'm out there to present with the like little monster thing.
Yeah, I'll say Fahrenheit 451, before the reviews came out, I thought it would be a pretty easy win for Michael B. Jordan. It would be a pretty easy win for Michael Shannon. Now I have a different opinion on what's going to happen. I would say at this point, Jeff Daniels is the one that I would predict to win. He's, you know, he's playing a character who gives, you know, big speeches. Like he says, the speech that has a title in it, which is fun.
He grandstands. He was a SAG nominee.
Yeah,
he's got one arm.
All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
As to why Cody Fern is not in the top 6, he's not being campaigned as much as series regular Ricky Martin. So, no, it's probably just a contractual
thing. That was a dumb
thing.
decision.
Internally, as I said in a different video, it does seem that they like Cody Fern and his episode House by the Lake. Like the people who made the show, that's the one that they actually want to see nominated. I think that Cody Fern will be nominated. I think he should have odds better than 100-1, because I said previously, like, if there's one limited series that I think they actually are watching this year, it's the assassination of Gianni Versace. And if they watch the show, then he gets nominated. And
I think like what helps him and maybe even Finn Wittrock is they have an episode. Like Edgar Ramirez, I love him, and if he won, I would have nothing against it. But he doesn't have an episode. It's kind of the same thing with Judith Light and Penelope Cruz. Penelope Cruz doesn't really have an episode where you're like, give that person an Emmy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I will say also in this category, I think we're sometimes surprised by how they'll nominate Bokeem Woodbine over Ted Danson, or how they'll nominate Scott Bakula over Rob Lowe. Like, they don't always go with the supporting actor that it's being pushed by the network. Sometimes they go with the one that maybe is more deserving. The other one, or I guess I've mentioned the rest, I am predicting Jimmy Simpson, just because I think Black Mirror visibility is high. I am wondering about, you know, if Patrick Melrose does well, will we see Hugo Weaving get in? Or am I underestimating the tale, and maybe a different rapist will get in, played by Jason Ritter?
It's possible, yeah. Possible.
I hate them so much. But I do think that, like, remember with, like, just to say for Cody Fern to give him hope, Alexander Skarsgård, he played a rapist. He played a horrible person last year, but just in general, he was in like 5th or 6th place heading into the predictions. He was on the bubble. I think that, you know, Cody Fern's in the conversation. Once you're in the nominee, where you were in the prediction portion of this can change. So I think he could go from like 10th to 1st. Because if that episode gets nominated in all those categories and then he gets nominated, then that really will help him.
I do think the looming tower is clogging up the aggregate predictions quite a bit. I think it's largely based on people not having seen it. Because if you've seen the first couple episodes, then Peter Sarsgaard is your man, because it seems like the whole show is going to be about this rivalry between Peter Sarsgaard and Jeff Daniels, and you're kind of wondering, like, why is he even in supporting? But then he disappears from the second half of the season, and they kind of Trojan horse Tahar Rahim, who ends up actually being the lead, of the finale. So he's someone, if they actually watch the show, they'll nominate him. If they watch a little bit of the show, they'll nominate Peter Sarsgaard. If they, don't watch any of it, maybe they'll go Michael Stuhlbarg, as the prediction center is predicting. And my favorite performance of the supporting guys was actually Bill Camp. So I don't know. It's just a mess.
I think it's just.
You don't have Alice Cooper winning, Riley? I thought that was your favorite person. Sorry.
I think it's a lot of name recognition is what it is, because I mean, Peter Sarsgaard, Michael Stuhlbarg, Bill Camp, those are names that people know, either from the Emmys or from the movies, Golden Globes and things like that. So, I think that's where a lot of that is coming from.
At least they didn't submit Alec Baldwin for some reason.
That's true.
Oh. Yeah, it's going to be a fun group. I think we'll see at least one or two upsets this year. We didn't see any last year. So, anyone else you guys want to talk about from this?
Scoot McNairy could get in for Godless.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
What about Jean Briones?
I hope so.
If they're watching the show, I mean, he's got significantly less episode counts than anybody else, but because they don't have a guest category for this, then he has to go supporting. So again, I think it would just depend on how much they're watching the show.
Yeah, I don't have him because, Cody Fern, if they watch 4 episodes, they'll get to him, but they have to watch 8 before they get to John Briones.
What if they get to 5? I mean, Finn Wittrock went from serial killer to victim number 1.
Yeah.
He gives kind of a gut punch in that episode, but he's had a hard trouble getting back in.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be an interesting race, and we'll have to see what happens. Stick with Gold Derby.